Well, that was a bit of a stinker of the way to end the 2023 season. Browns lose to the Bengals, but hey, we know who they are playing in the playoffs. It is the Houston Texans on the road next weekend. So we're going to do a full Browns-Texans preview. But let me start the video off by just kind of touching on a couple of quick hitters from the Week 18 finale in Cincinnati, where the Browns and Jeff Driscoll lost 31-14. God bless David Bell for getting the shutout off the board, 2 touchdowns in the fourth quarter. But all in all, big takeaways from this game are there are none. Like, they were playing backups and backups. So I am not going to lose sleep over this score right here. When you play your backups, this is the game you play where you are likely not going to win, and it could get ugly. So I am not concerned. You should not be concerned. Would I have liked to have seen a better performance? Of course, who wouldn't? But I also understand that when Vincent Gray is the best player on defense, you're not playing a whole lot of key guys out there. So do not be overly alarmed whatsoever with the Week 18 loss. It's a bummer they couldn't pick up win number 12. That would have been really cool for Kevin Stefanski. First time any Browns coach would have done it in 3-4 decades, all the way back to the late 80s. But the Browns end the season on a bit of a sour note, but they get guys healthy, more importantly, for the playoffs. So let's look at the updated AFC playoff picture. We know all 7 teams. Now we got to figure out who is playing where and when. The Browns and Texans are locked in. That's going to be next weekend. I predicted a month ago that it would be that Saturday 4:30 p.m. game. I stand by that prediction. I can't say it for fact, but I'm going to go on a limb and say Browns-Texans Saturday 4:30 p.m. Eastern. I think the Dolphins will beat the Bills, and if that's the case, the Steelers would actually slide up to the 6th seed with a 10-7 record with the Buffalo Bills, and they would play the Kansas City Chiefs. If the Bills were to win, then it would be the Steelers going to Buffalo for that 2-7 matchup. Now, with that being said here, let's talk about Browns-Texans. Cleveland, of course, had no problem dominating Houston just a few short weeks ago on Christmas Eve, but this is a different Texans team now. They've got their quarterback, C.J. Stroud, back, so it's not going to be a simple walk in the park like it was before Santa came down from the North Pole. But who you got? Browns versus Texans. I got Cleveland. I got the Browns, and I'm not saying that through the lens of I want the Browns to win, so therefore I'm going to try and speak it into existence. No, I believe the Browns are going to win this game because Playoff Joe has arrived. And Playoff Joe Flacco is a different breed than regular season Joe Flacco. They are cut from a different cloth, right? 25 career touchdowns in the playoffs, 10-5 record. We know how successful he was for the Ravens for all those years. And Joe Flacco this year has been terrific in just such a short time span. 5 games, 13 touchdowns. The guy's averaging over 2 touchdowns a game, 1,600 yards. I believe in playoff Joe Flacco. You add in everyone getting an extra week of rest. That could be a big difference maker compared to the Texans, who just played a very emotional playoff game in Week 18 in Indianapolis. The Browns had no problem running through the Texans a few short weeks ago, and I think they're going to do it again against C.J. Stroud and the Texans, who of course was not available on Christmas Eve. Give credit to Stroud; he was awesome this year. In my opinion, he is the NFL Offensive Rookie of the Year, without a doubt winner. 4,100 yards, 23 touchdowns. Maybe most impressively, though, 5 interceptions. Usually there's a lot of growing pains for rookies, right? They got to learn the hard way, a lot of mistakes. Instead, C.J. Stroud was very smart with the football, didn't make a whole lot of mistakes this year. So that's something to factor in for a Browns defense that on the road this season has not been as good as we kind of saw in Cincinnati. But again, all backups and backups playing. But still, I think there is something to be said about the Browns defense not playing as well on the road this year. And the Texans offense under C.J. Stroud have been terrific. But the Browns pass rush, they're going to have to get after Stroud, right? They are going up against a rookie quarterback who might take an extra millisecond to just read and process the defense. And that quarter second is the difference between Myles Garrett barely getting to you and Myles Garrett getting on top of you. Add in Zadarius Smith getting an extra week of rest. Okoronkwo returned against the Bengals today. He didn't play a whole lot. I think they just kind of wanted to give him a bit of a ramp-up game and see how his body would react after playing. Fingers crossed he can go in Houston. But Alex Wright when your fourth defensive end has 5 sacks, you've got some pretty good depth, I'd say, right there. So we'll talk more about this matchup in just a moment. But first, a word from our sponsor, Factor. Get started on your resolutions with Factor so you are ready for the new year. Factor's ready-to-eat meal delivery takes the stress out of meal planning and sets you up for success in the new year. Skip the grocery stores, prep work, and cooking fatigue. Instead, get chef-crafted, dietitian-approved meals delivered right to your door. With over 35 meals to choose from per week, including options like keto, calorie smart, vegan, and veggie and more, plus over 55 weekly add-ons, you'll have a ton of nutritious and flavorful options to kickstart your resolution. Stress less over meal times in the new year. Factor's no prep, no mess meals free up time otherwise spent shopping, cooking, and cleanup. No more wasting time in the kitchen. Head to factormeals.com/BrownsChat50 and use code BrownsChat50 to get 50% off. That's code BrownsChat50 at factormeals.com/BrownsChat50 to get 50% off. Getting back to our Browns-Texans preview, Cleveland's offense, of course, under Joe Flacco the last 5 games has been awesome. I mean, it has been a big play machine waiting to happen. You give Amari Cooper and Elijah Moore an extra week to get healthy, they're going to have a lot of fun. I mean, remember last time Amari Cooper played in Houston? I sure do. He went over 1,000 yards on the year and set the Browns' single-game receiving record with well over 250 yards and a couple of scores to go along with it. So the big question in my eyes is the ground game for Cleveland. Because the Browns' ground game the last couple of weeks, very different than the first few weeks after the bye, right? They go from averaging 4.1 yards a carry to 3.3 yards a carry since week 11. Now, we have seen more life from the ground game the last 2 weeks. The Jets, and then today against the Bengals, back-to-back games with over 100 yards. Hopefully that trend continues, but we need to see more from the ground game because these playoff games, they're not regular season games. They are hyper-focused games, which means if the Texans find a way to limit the Browns' air game and make them one-dimensional, and that last dimension is the Browns' weak spot, it's going to be tough. Now, we can peek here at the Browns-Texans Week 16 matchup from just a few short weeks ago where Cleveland won by 14, but it didn't feel like a 14-point win. It felt like a 40-point win, right? The Texans burned their only onside kick recovery of the year, and the Browns were playing their backups, and the Houston Texans made it a bit closer than probably Kevin Stefanski liked, but still, they won by 14 points. That game was never really in doubt. Start to finish, the Browns just kicked the shit out of the Texans, let's be honest. However, very different game with C.J. Stroud in it this time. If C.J. Stroud plays that game, I still think the Browns win, and they probably win by a lot. Because when you lose by 14 points, and when the Texans were losing by 28 at one point, you have bigger problems than just one position. It's not like a quarterback can flip a 28-point result. However, or 28-point deficit during the game. However, new game, fresh start, coming off a big playoff win essentially in Indianapolis on Saturday. It's not going to be the same Week 16 matchup, but I still feel confident in the Browns taking down the Houston Texans to get their first playoff win since the Steelers since Pittsburgh a few years ago and going to the divisional round. And who knows from there? But Browns Texans, book it right now. Here we go. Playoff time, baby. Playoff time. We're going to have a watch party for this game, so make sure to subscribe. It's going to be a ton of fun. It's going to be a blast. I don't want you to miss a thing. But there's our preview. We'll have more updates throughout the week, of course, but Cleveland going down to Houston, playoff game. I'm going to predict it right now. It'll be Saturday, 4:30 p.m. Eastern. Let's go Brownies, baby.